We need a Rambam. Rambam Hilchas Chirus and Tur Choshen Mishpat Shin Yud Ches 318. So we have Rambam Hilchas Chirus Perek Ches. We're going to get to Halacha L'Maisa now. After all that very complicated sugya with a very interesting Machlokas Rishonim that we already saw, but now we're going to see how it's brought down in the Tur Beis Yosef Halacha L'Maisa. And actually, I didn't bring my Shulchan Aruch, but we want to see it in the Shulchan Aruch also. But we'll start with the Tur Beis Yosef, with the Rambam. Okay, so the Rambam is Hilchas Chirus, which is in Mishpatim. I'm sorry, did I say Perek? Perek Zayin Halacha Ches. Chirus, Perek Zayin Halacha Ches. The Rambam is going to be very straightforward, very simple, compared to the very complicated stuff that we had. And therefore, the Rambam, as we will see, is just basically giving us the straightforward shot in the Gemara. In fact, as you see, the Maggid Mishneh just says, well, it's just what the Gemara said. Okay, so let's get started. So the Rambam says, very simple, very straightforward. Perek Zayin Halacha Ches, everybody with me? I can get started? Okay. Hasocher rechayim mechavero. Sheyitchon lo kaf sa'a b'chol chodesh b'schoro. The Rambam is being very specific. It wasn't just you're going to grind my wheat, which makes sense. They agreed on a certain amount of grinding services. We're talking here about grinding services. Pinchas just joined us. We're on Rambam in Mishpatim, Hilchas Chirus, Perek Zayin Halacha Ches. Chirus Halacha Zayin, Perek Zayin Halacha Ches. So the deal was 20 sa'ah a month. That's the rent. V'heshir Bala Rechayim, and then the Bala Rechayim who rented his Rechayim to Shimon got wealthy. V'harei eno tzorech litchon sham. He doesn't need rental. You'll notice that the Rambam doesn't say why he doesn't need. He got wealthy. So maybe he says, look, I don't need you to grind my wheat anymore. I can buy flour in the shuk, or whatever reason, I don't need your grinding services anymore. Okay? He doesn't say explicit, the Rambam doesn't explicitly say it's because he bought another grinding mill. Okay, I don't need your grinding services anymore. Okay? Im yesh lasocher chitim shetzarich litchon leatzmo o leacherim. You'll notice right away the Rambam goes right to the Kofin scenario. If under those circumstances, so let's get the scenario straight, very clear according to the Rambam. Ruvain owns a mill that he rents to Shimon. Doesn't say he rented it because he doesn't have a donkey. He has a grinding mill and he rents it, and the rental is 20 saw a month. And then Ruvain stops needing the grinding services for whatever reason. All right, so now he wants money. So im yesh l'socher chitim shetzarich litchon le'atzmo, if the socher has a use for the grinding mill for himself, o le'acherim, or he can replace the socher, the maskir's grinding services with somebody else. Kofin also litain demei tchinas kaf sa'a shezumi dasdomhi. So it's not clear, but it's pretty clear from the Rambam, not 100%, but it's pretty clear that what happened is that Shimon rented the grinding mill to open a grinding business. He wanted a grinding business. And it doesn't even say for sure that he was using it for his own grinding, but he probably was. And now the maskir doesn't need the grinding services anymore for whatever reason. The Rambam's making the case very simple. He doesn't need the grinding services for whatever reason. He can demand the monetary value of grinding 20 saw, assuming that the socher can generate that income by getting more customers, or if he needs 20 saw for himself. Okay, so that's the kofin al midas dom. V'im ein lo, what happens if the socher says, I'm very sorry, I don't have money, I don't have a way to generate the money. I was grinding 20 saw for you. I want to continue grinding the 20 saw as my rent. Yochol lomar ein li damim v'hareini tochen l'cha kamosha sacharta. I can continue grinding for you. And you don't need the wheat that I'm grinding for you, that I'm going to keep doing because that's the rent. You sell the wheat and you generate the money. So the Rambam is making it very simple, is that if the socher can generate income on his own, then it's midas dom not to generate that income and force the maskir to take the grind wheat that he doesn't really need. Okay, but if the socher can't generate the money, he has a right to insist that the deal remain the deal. I'm going to grind 20 saw. You don't need it. Do something with it. Sell it. Much more simple than all the back and forth in the Gemara. Because at the end of the day, the Rambam is paskening like Rav Avira, and that's the bottom line. The bottom line is that the socher has the right to insist that the deal be kept, unless there's a kofed al midas dom. Any questions on the Rambam? And the Kesef Mishnah says nothing, and the Maggid Mishnah says a one-liner. All the Maggid Mishnah says is Ma'aseh mefurish behanose b'ksubas, meaning that's the story. The Rambam is synthesized the story with taking away all of the contingency details to get to the bottom line. The bottom line is the deal was to rent for 20 saw. If you don't need the 20 saw, and I have a way to generate income for 20 for an alternative 20 saw, I got to pay you, because kofin al midas dom. It's not be'etzem adin. It's not etzem adin. The etzem adin is the deal was 20 saw. I'm gonna continue grinding 20 saw. You don't need it. It's your problem. Okay, everybody clear with that? Everybody comfortable with that, Rambam? Is that how you would have paskened? I mean, pretty much what we're saying is the deal was 20 saw, and you can't change the deal unilaterally. That's certainly the default, except there's a contingency of kofin al midas dom. But that's the only reason we can force the guy to we can allow the guy to change the deal. The only way we allow the masker to change the deal is because we bring in kofin al midas dom. Questions? Good. Now go to Tur Choshen Mishpat Shin Yud Ches. While you're getting it, I want to get my Shulchan Aruch, because I think we're going to need a Shulchan Aruch also. Tur Shin Yud Ches. Everybody with me? We can get started? Okay, Ruvain. Hiskir Echaim l'Shimon sheyitchenu lo b'scharam kach v'kach soin l'shana l'tzorech ma'achal beso. So Ruvain rented out his grinding mill, and the rent is going to be X number of saw per year, because Ruvain needs ground wheat. Ruvain needs flour, and he's going to bring flour to. The truth is, yes, right, that the rent is going to be that Shimon is going to grind X number of saw per year, and that's the rent. And then He'eshir Ruvain, and the Tur adds back in what the Rambam did not include, because the Tur adds back in details from the Gemara's actual story. So now Ruvain doesn't need it, because he has his own grinding mill, and he's going to grind his own flour. And therefore, mevakesh mishimon sheyitin lo damim kidei hatechina. He should give him money, the value of the grinding services, and that should be the rent. So the deal, we know the story. I don't have to elaborate on the claims. So here's the din. Till now, the scenario: Im Shimon motzei harbe limi yitchon be'inin shelo yafsid bedavar. If Shimon can replace Ruvain with plenty of grinding services to generate the income, so that he doesn't lose, meaning that if the value of X number of saw, let's say, is $100 a month, and he can generate $100 or more of income from grinding services, then he has to do it, and he has to give Shimon Ruvain the $100. Okay, v'im eno motzei. You'll notice he says motzei harbe limi yitchon, meaning it's got to be simple for him to generate $100. But if he can't, Im eno motze lo yiten lo damim. He doesn't have to pay money. Ela omer ani yatchan lecha. I am going to grind for you the way we were. You have a grinding mill and you say you don't need it because you're grinding for yourself. So you grind for other people. Meaning I don't have any other customers. You're my customer. Okay, there's no way I can generate another $100 a month to replace what I'm grinding for you to give you $100. So you don't need it. Good. So you grind for other people. You find the customers. I can't find the customers. I don't have customers. You find the customers. Till here, it's clear. But you'll notice that the Torah already threw in something that wasn't quite explicit in the Gemara. Okay, the Torah threw in that the Shimon's claim is to Reuven, you grind and sell. I'm not able to generate money by grinding and selling my grinding services, so you grind and sell. So then that leads us to the next step. V'ingam Reuven eino motze litchon. What happens if Reuven says, yeah, but you couldn't find customers, but I also can't find customers. So now I grind my own wheat, but I can't sell that wheat because there's nobody to buy it. And if you give it to me, if you give me wheat, then I have a grinding mill that's not going to do anything. So therefore, I want you to pay me money. All right. So we're in the case that Tos was brought in, or the Rosh that brought in the case, which Tosfos also mentioned, that Shimon will lose. He doesn't have any other customers, but Reuven also has nothing to do with the wheat, and he'll lose. So then that was a machlokas. L'das ri yachol lachzor bo mehaschirus. Im ein Shimon rotza litin lo dami. If Shimon says, look, I have no customers, and Reuven says, well, I have nothing to do with the wheat, and Shimon comes back and says, well, I'm not giving you money. And Reuven says, then if you're not giving me money and I don't need the wheat, I'm taking back the grindstone. Says the Rosh, says the Ri, meaning, according to this, when Shimon has no customers to replace Reuven's grinding services, and Reuven has nothing to do with the extra wheat, and then it goes back to Shimon. Well, Shimon, since Reuven has nothing to do with the extra wheat, you can't give him wheat in lieu of rent. You got to give him cash. And Shimon says, I'm very sorry, I can't give him cash. I won't give him cash. Reuven can say, then the whole deal is off and the grindstone comes back. That was the opinion of the Ri. The Adoni Avi Harosh Zal Kosov, Afilu Reuven Eino Motze Lemi Yitron. Even if Reuven has nothing to do with the extra wheat, Eino Yochel Lachzor Me'aschirus. He can't cancel the schirus. There was a deal. The gam ein Shimon no sin lo damim, and Shimon doesn't have to give him money. The deal stays in place. So we have a machlokas Ri and Rosh in the case where Reuven has nothing to do with the extra wheat. If Reuven has what to do with the extra wheat, Shimon wins. Meaning Shimon can say, "Look, till now I was grinding. You don't need the wheat. You do something with the wheat." But what happens if he has something to do with the wheat? Then for sure everybody agrees that if he has something to do with the wheat, okay, then Shimon can insist on maintaining the deal, and it's not comparable to the girl with the double mazonos. Okay, everybody agrees on that. The question is, what happens if Reuven has nothing to do with the wheat, and that's the machlokas Ri and Rosh.
I find it very difficult to understand the position of the Ri.
Difficult to understand the position of the Ri because.
What's the Havamina? He's unilaterally changing the terms of the contract, and he's making the other guy suffer.
Okay. Good. Says the Beis Yosef.
Well, wait, can I also just ask? Actually, I don't understand really the practical nafkamina. Because in other words, because Shimon is saying, I can't find other customers, and which seems to suggest that there is saturation in the market, right? So then, even according to the Ri, if Reuven also can't find customers, so he cancels the deal, the Rechaim come back to him, but L'may Nafkamina, what's he going to do with that?
Wait, Reuven needs a certain amount of wheat every month.
Yeah, but he has his own grindstone. He bought an extra grindstone, right?
And therefore, what he wants is, oh, I see. You mean, what good is, oh, I see. What good
is, what good is his original grindstone to him?
You mean the second, why does he want a second grindstone back? You know what? Okay, that's a good question. Maybe he'll sell it. Maybe he'll find somebody else to rent it. That's, as they say in Yeshivish, das is a kasha famaisa. I mean, you're asking, this is the claim. They're in court. Okay. At the end of the day, Reuven doesn't want to be stuck with extra wheat. He'd rather have an extra grindstone than an extra wheat. Okay, that's basically the bottom line. Anyway, let's go. Pinchas's question is a much stronger question. Let's see the Beis Yosef. So the truth is, the whole first section of the Beis Yosef, all the Beis Yosef does in the Aleph is he quotes the Gemara word for word, and then he quotes Rashi word for word. Okay, so we know what the Gemara said, and we know what Rashi said. Okay, so I don't think we need to review it.
Can I just ask a question about a curiosity? I see that the Rishonim do that a lot. Why do they do it? Are they afraid that people don't have the Gemara in front of them and the Rashi available?
Absolutely. That was the Beis Yosef. The Beis Yosef's job was to show where the tour got it from. Yes, they didn't have, they didn't. It wasn't. There wasn't every shas in everybody's home. Okay. The tour, the opposite. That was the tour was doing. The tour. What did the Rambam write? The Rambam writes in his introduction, I'm writing this I'm Sefer Halacha because nobody's going to learn the Gemara, and all you need to do is learn Mishnah and learn my Rambam. You don't need a Gemara. Okay, we're supposed to not need the Gemara. Well, all the tour did is the tour came and codified the Halacha, and now the Beis Yosef is working backwards and saying, where did the tour get this from? Where did the tour get it from? So he's quoting the Gemara that the tour got it from. Okay, so let's start with the second piece in the Beis Yosef. If you're in the new version, it's page Shin Samach Vav. We're in Siman Shin Yud Ches. Choshen Mishpat, Hilchas Socher, Shin Yud Ches.
At the top, Mashakasav?
Yes. Okay. So he quoted the Gemara, he quoted Rashi. And now he's going to show you where the psak comes from. This is now he's quoting the tour. V'imgam Ruvain eno motze litchon ladas ri yochol lachzor bo me'aschirus v'adoni aviarosh zal kosav shafilu Ruvain eno motze lemi yitchon eno yochol lachzor me'aschirus. Okay, so he quoted the Machlokas Ri and Rosh. Says the Beis Yosef, Sham kosav harosh v'zel shono, and we saw this Rosh inside. V'im tomar hoil v'yukimnam b'deles leitechina. If Shimon doesn't have any other way, if Reuven doesn't have any other way to use the extra wheat, I'm sorry. No. We're back to the verse. If Shimon has no other customers, Shimon has no other way to generate income for the money. So Amai Hutzrach Rav Avira, who wanted to reject Ravina, and he had to say Hachatachan v'Zavin Tachan v'Osiv Afili lo mashkach maskir lemitchan ulemizban dahave hashta kechad kresa akati lo dami lemasnisin. What was the difference between the Mishnah that Ravina brought and our case? Is that there the woman has nothing to do with an extra meal, but here the maskir has something to do with the extra meal, i.e. Tchon v'Zavin Tchon v'Osiv afilu lo maskir lemitchan lemizban. So wait a minute. Let's say, and if he wouldn't have had another thing, if he has nothing to do with the wheat, if it would be exactly like the case of the daughters, where he has nothing to do with the extra wheat, that would make it hashta kechat tresa. Akati lo dami lemasnisin. Why? Because the lemasnisin lekap seda lebal iyoiv dmei. The mali mizona mali dmehem. Remember, the Baal, who's compared to whom? Okay? The Baal is compared, right? The husband, right, is compared to the Socher. Okay? So when we say that the Socher is going to lose money if we make him give money instead of wheat, because he has no way to generate the money. But if the Baal has to give money or has to give mizonos, to him, that makes no difference because he's going to have to pay X number of dollars anyway. So why do we need? So now let's go back inside and see what's bothering him. Amai utzruch Avira Lememar Hacha Tchon V'Zavin. Tchon V'Osiv, meaning you have what to do with the wheat. Afilu lo mashkach hamaskir lemitchanu lemizban. Even if the maskir had nothing to do with the wheat. The avihashte kechad kresa, which is, again, different than the case of the daughter. Akati lo dami lemasnisin. Why? The masnisin lekap seida lebal. The Baal, who's compared to the Socher, he has no loss whether he gives money or he gives mizonos. Ki yoiv demei, demali mizonos mali demeim. Aval Socher islay pseida I yoiv demei. Share eno motze litchon v'tzarch lifra mikiso. So he said, why did Rav Avira have to come back and say that the Socher can claim you Mr. Maskir, have what to do with the wheat? Even if the Maskir had nothing to do with the wheat, we would still say that the Socher doesn't have to give money because the Socher can't lose, whereas the Baal never loses. And therefore, why did we even raise the fact that the Socher, that the Maskir has what to do with the wheat? That should be irrelevant if the Socher is going to lose. You know, we're questioning why he made an argument that was not necessary. The difference between the Mishnah of the daughters and our case is very simple. In the case of the Mishnah, the husband will not lose whether he has to give money or wheat, money or food, and the Socher will lose if he has to give money instead of wheat. So why did you bring in an argument that's not relevant? The Nira. The Vadai Belav Hai Taima de Tochen V'Zav and Tochen V'Osif. If the Baal, if the Maskir has nothing to do with the wheat, Miftar Socher Milemesav Dmei Hol V'islei Pseida. So clearly, we don't care whether the Baal, whether the Maskir has what to do with the wheat or not. Whether the Socher has to give money or not is up to whether he has what to do to generate money or not. If he can't generate money, he doesn't have to pay money. That's very clear. So why do we care what the Maskir has to do with the wheat? But if the Maskir had nothing to do with the wheat, meaning if you didn't have the reason of you can grind and sell, grind and store, then Gama Maskir Yomar Lididi Isli Pseida Schare Chaim Shali. The Maskir can say, but I'm also going to lose the Yuchal Levata Haschirus Kodem Azman. He can take back the grindstone. Okay. We can't force the Socher to give money. All right. But the Socher can't hold on to the Rechaim without paying the money. Because the Maskir is going to lose. So what we're saying is that the default is that the Maskir, if he's going to lose, should be able to take back the Rechaim. Except that since the Taina is you have what to do with the wheat, therefore we're going to force you to continue taking ground wheat, and you have to figure out what to do with the extra wheat. Matzi Amarle, les lecha pseida, im taniach harechaim etzli, aval im tachzor b'cha isli pseida, and therefore because I will lose, I can hold on to the deal. Says Pinchas, like what? But at the end of the day, why should we care whether the Maskir is going to lose or not? Why shouldn't that be his problem? Isn't that what you're asking, Pinchas?
Yep.
It's not so simple, but let's read on in the Beis Yosef. Okay, and then we're going to see the Prisha. The Ravina havisover lasuye raya mimasnisin sheyitin lo schar o yachzor bo hamaskir. So that was Ravina's agenda. Ravina was exactly saying. Ravina was exactly saying, okay, what the Rosh was saying that Pinchas doesn't like, and that was what Ravina was saying. And Rav Avira Kamar Lesley, Ravina Kamar like even the Matzi Amar like Tchon v'Zav and Tchon v'Osiv lo Yoiv le Dmei v'gam lo Yachzor bo hamaskir. Kach Pirshu Atosfos. So apparently Pinchas, even Rav Avira agrees with Ravina be'etzem. In other words, the only reason why Rav Avira argued on Ravina was because the maskir has what to do with the wheat. But if the maskir wouldn't have to do with the wheat, even Rav Avira would have agreed with Ravina that the masker, if he's going to lose, can call back the schirus. And that was Tosos. Velo nirali. This is still the Rosh talking. Pinchas, you're going to like the rest of it.
Waiting. I knew that the Rosh was the side of the argument that I liked. So I was surprised he was saying the other side. Okay, so let me hear why.
That yes, the masker can't find anything to do with that extra wheat, and he's going to lose. The masker cannot back out of the deal during the time of the rental period. Deschirus liyomei mimkarhu. That's a phrase in the Gemara. What it means is that when I rent it to you for a week, you own it for a week. And if you own it, how can I undo the deal? All right, it's not a schirus sounds like, okay, it's renting. Every day you rent it, so it's still mine. I can take it back anytime. But if we say that schirus is a temporary sale, obviously I can't take back the sale. Okay. Who asked you, Mr. Maskir, to go out and create a situation that the socher is going to lose? Yes, okay. So now we're in a situation they're both going to lose. The Maskir went through bought the Rechaim, and now he has nothing to do with the extra wheat. Okay, and if you don't give him money and you give him wheat, he's had nothing to do with the wheat. He's going to lose. But the socher is also going to lose. So hoil v'ika pseida litarvayu. So somebody's got to lose, and this is frequently where when you get into court, right? There's always a problem. Okay, all right. I love to quote. I heard a quote from Thomas Sowell, and it's so applicable in so many areas. All right, and he talks about politicians. Politicians have a problem, and they think there's a solution. He said there's no solutions. There's only trade-offs.
Yeah, I heard that also. It's fantastic.
The problem that you want to solve is a trade-off.
It's so
now
true.
We're in court. We have a problem. The masker is going to lose if the socher keeps it. Right? The socher is going to lose if he has to give money or give it back. So we have a trade. We have a problem, but we have to have a trade-off. The trade-off is somebody's going to lose. Whatever happens, somebody's going to lose. So now we got to decide to whom is it more appropriate to impute the loss. And therefore, says the Rosh, at the end of the day, because there was a deal. Wait a minute, but we have a problem. Because if you remember the Gemara, right, when Rav Avira argued on Ravina, go back. You don't have to open up your Gemaras. You can go back and turn the page and see where the Beis Yosef quotes the Gemara. It's like the fourth or fifth line in the Beis Yosef. Amar le Rav Avira midami hasam chad kreisa isla tarte kreisa lesla hacha matzi amar le tchon v'zavin tchon v'osif. That was Rav Avira's rejection of Ravina. But according to this, that was a specious time. It was an irrelevant time. It was completely unnecessary. You didn't need to say that. All you needed to say is that if I give it back to you, I'm going to have a loss. Who cares what's going to happen to you? Why do I care whether you have what to do with it or you don't have? So Ravi says, well, the socher can say back to the maskir. Remember, this is a kasha on the Rosh. Because the language of the Gemara says that the only reason that the socher can demand maintenance of the deal, right, is because the maskir has what to do with the wheat. Diuk. If the masker wouldn't have had what to do with the wheat, if the socher wouldn't have had the taina zva, right, tchon v'zavin, tchon v'osiv, then the masker would win. Well, that's against the Rosh. So the language of the Gemara of Rav Avira sounds like the Reed. Okay, so says here the Rosh has to go out on a bit of a limb, and he says, well, you know when he said that. He only said it, where is it here? He just said it to strengthen his rejection of Ravina. Even without this taina, it's not comparable to the masnisin. because the socher loses if he has to pay, and the husband doesn't lose if he has to pay money. He didn't lose because he would have to pay mazoros anyway. So that's pashut lo mi boy. But od im gam imatat eincha motze litchon bischar. Even if you can't find anybody else, and you will lose, ata ashir v'yesh lecha mos liknot chitin knei chitin u'mechor kemach. Meaning you buy wheat, grind, and sell the wheat, sell the flour, and therefore, since you have what to do with it, for sure you can't demand that the socher give you money. But even if you wouldn't have what to do with it, you wouldn't be able to demand what the socher does because it's not comparable to the Mishnah. All right,
the
so
end there sounds like the Rosh. Yes.
I'm sorry.
I said the end there. That sounds like the Rosh.
It is the Rosh. This is Rosh talk. This is all the Rosh talk.
Okay.
Okay, and therefore it sounds, if that's the end of the discussion, and we'll see, and we'll go to the Shulchan Aruch. It certainly sounds like the Tur is siding with the Rosh, and Pinchas is very happy with that because Pinchas thinks that the Re's approach is not so reasonable. Let's see the Prisha.
So again, is it a question of, at the end of the day, who's going to have to bear the risk? Is that what we're saying?
No risk. Who has to bear loss?
Well, risk of loss. I mean,
no, not risk of loss. Real loss. We're not talking about risk of loss. We're talking about real loss. Meaning, if we could show that the socher will not lose by paying cash, he has to pay cash because that's a kofin al midas dom. But it's kofin al midas dom shows that be'etzem he's entitled to keep the deal, except that there's kofin al midas dom. Don't talk about risk of loss. Talk about real loss.
Could we defend the Re by saying that if you're able to be kofin al minas dom by the socher, you could also do it by the maskir?
Let's see what the Prisha. Let's see what the. You know what, Sue? I'll take suggestions after we see the Prisha. Okay. All right. So says the Prisha. Everybody see the Prisha at the bottom. Ladas Re. The Tamo. Mishum the Sham Gemara Ka'amar of Avira Ta'a the Ein Sarach Litin Lo Damim Mishum Da'afim Gama Maskir Ein Motze Davar Litchon Mikol Makom Matzi Hasocher Lomar Kiven De'ata Asher Knei Lecha Chitim B'Tachanam V'Zovnam. That even if the maskir can't find something, if the maskir can't find anything, we say you're an usher, go buy wheat and grind them. So it's not like the afim gama maskir ein motze davar litchon. I'm not sure exactly what he meant there, but the point is that even if the maskir says, I don't have anything to do, the socher says, well, find something to do. You're a wealthy guy. You can find what to do. Okay? I guess what it means is that he doesn't have any extra. Remember, here was the story. Apparently, we were saying the story like this. The maskir rented the rechaim, and the rent was, I, the maskir, bring you wheat, and you grind the wheat. Okay? And the socher is saying, I want you to continue bringing me wheat to grind for you. Okay? And you do something with your rechaim. And the maskir's tying it back is, I don't have any more wheat to grind than what I'm giving you. So why should I give you the wheat to grind? I'll grind it myself. And therefore I want rent. That's, I think, what he means when he says, Ein motze davar litchon. Meaning he doesn't have more wheat. He has a wheat field. So he has a certain amount of wheat every month, and he wants the socher to grind that wheat. And now he wants to grind that wheat himself. And the maskir says, I have no other wheat. If I give it to you, my grindstone is going to be Yosef Batel. So therefore, I'm going to grind my wheat, and you go figure out what to do with the rental and give me money. Okay? And the socher's tying it back is, wait a minute, you don't have wheat? Fine. You're a wealthy guy. Go buy wheat in the marketplace and grind it. And you'll have wheat and do whatever you want with the flour. Again, it's tinus that the socher is giving back to the maskir to say that basically the maskir, you can't change the deal. Okay? Kivan da ata usher knei lechachit. Hold. Kivan da ata usher knei lechachit v'tachlam v'zovnam uv'mash ata tzorich lebeitcha tzchon etzli kibat chila. Okay. V'kasha l'ri lama li high time de tachun v'zavin b'lavach inami ha hasocher rotza lama b'tano shehiskiro imo litchon v'lo litein damim v'yelo hefsei b'nitzinas damim kiven de'eno motze litchon mimokom acher, which is basically what Pinchas didn't like. The Socher says, I want to stay in the deal. What do you mean you have a problem? You have a problem, it's your problem. It's not my problem. Because of read the tzorich lomar. The lule hai taima haya hamaskir yochol lachzor mischiruso. Apparently, the maskir at any moment has the right to be choser from the schirus. Elza kitzarti v'shinitihu l'tosefet biur. Ulefize tzorich lomar. The mashakos of Rabbeinu di'im gam ruvein eno motze litchon. Ritzon lomar eno motze afilu litchon u'lezavin. Dim lo kein kosha ha kosav sham de mehai time eno yochol lachzor maschirus. Havestam Rabbeinu mishum de mistama kiven de zeno motze litchon gam zeh shedar imo beiro eno motze afilu litchon u'lezavin. See, he's saying like this. Wait a minute. What's going on? Let's be real. I think you guys alluded to this also. What's Shimon's taina that if I have to pay you cash, I have no way to generate the cash? Why don't I have a way to generate the cash? Because I can't find anybody else to replace your grinding service, the grinding services. So what is he telling the maskir? So, I can't find anybody to generate cash from grinding. So you go and you find somebody to generate cash for grinding. Well, it's a city. If Shimon can't find, why do you think Reuven can find? Meaning the masker also can't find anybody to give him grinding services so he can generate cash. So that at the end of the day, the Socher is saying, again, apparently the Ri comes up with the opinion, again, and this is why the Rosh threw in what the Rosh said. Schirus is mechira liyom. Why did the Rosh need to throw that in? Schirus is a kinyan liyom, is a mechira liyom.
Because otherwise you can just throw out the deal like the Ri wanted.
Schirus is a very Schirus is a more flexible reality. If schirus is only, I let you use my thing as long as you pay me. So if you stop paying me, you can't do it. And I can refuse to take payment and say, okay, it's time for me to get it back. Because basically it's my grindstone. I give you permission to use it as long as. But I can decide, you know what, I'm not giving you permission anymore. And therefore the schirus, if it's not a mechira liyom, should be unilaterally reversible. Now let's talk contract law for a minute, Pinchas. How does the secular law view schirus? Mechira liyom or not?
That concept actually is discussed to a certain degree, and I don't know whether it's actually invoked. I've never actually seen a case where it's invoked, but the concept is that as the socher does have certain rights that cannot be violated as long as he's upholding the schirus, and you can't unilaterally cancel a schirus just because it's now inconvenient for maskir. I just want to point something out here is that one of the circumstances that we're discussing here in the case is pretty extreme. We're not talking about a case where maskir and a socher made a deal and some outside force or a third party changed the economic viability of the schirus for the maskir. He changed it himself. He went and he bought another rechaim. I mean, so how can he go complain to the socher that things have changed? Things did not change. You changed them unilaterally. And gesundheit, hey, now you have another rechaim. That's great. But why should I change anything in my life because of the unilateral?
That you're saying a very good taina, but apparently even the Rosh understood that that's not going to be enough. The Rosh had to activate schirus is a mechira liyom. You're saying very good, Pinchas, but apparently that wouldn't have been enough. Okay? At the end of the day,
I can tell you in secular law, I mean, in a secular court, surely here in Israel, no judge would allow a maskir to cancel a schirus because he initiated a change to make it no longer economically viable for himself.
Okay, so now you're saying Gavaldi.
It's unthinkable. I mean,
no, but now we really understand the Rambam. Now we really understand the Rambam. You know what I'm talking about? Well, Pinchas, you're frozen. Wait.
No, I'm not sure.
Okay. Am I okay? Am I frozen?
Yeah. No, it's me. It's my reception is not always so good.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
It's Pinchas. So now you will understand the Rambam. The Rambam exactly avoided that problem, Pinchas. Because what did the Rambam say? I'll read you the Rambam again. I mentioned it in passing. I didn't realize how significant it is. The Rambam leaving out all the gory details.
Wait, where is this Rambam?
The Rambam is in Hilchos Schirus, which is Mishpatim. Hilchos Schirus, Perek Zayin Halacha Ches. We read it to open the shir. We'll do it again now. After Pinchas raised what he raised, I see that the Rambam would have paskened exactly like the secular courts, Lahavdil Elef Alfei Abdolos. Because the Rambam doesn't bring in the fact that the maskir went out and bought another Rechayim and now he doesn't need the rental services. The Rambam says, Hasocher Rechayim Echavero Sheyitchon Lo Kafsa B'chol Chodesh B'schoro. V'he'eshir Bal HaRechayim V'harei Eno Tzorech Litchon Sham. He doesn't need the grinding services anymore. Why? He's wealthy. You know what? He can go buy wheat. He can go buy flour in the makolet. He doesn't need the grinding services anymore because he's a wealthy guy. You'll notice that according to the Rambam, there's no indication that the masker did anything on his own that created the imbalance that now exists. It happened. Heshir, he doesn't need it anymore. A wealthy guy certainly doesn't schlep his wheat to be ground. Okay, he's got other resources anyway. So I think the Rambam is exactly avoiding the situation that Pinchas is alluding to. But at the end of the day, the Rosh still had to activate schirus is a mechira liyom. So apparently there would have been some flexibility for the mach. You know where we're going to see this come up? This is going to come. There's a lot more sugyas coming up. I rented your. Here's going to be. Well, I'll just throw off the case so you can start thinking about it. I rented you. I own a house, and I rented you a house. I have a house. I lived in my house, and I have another house, an investment house for rental. Okay, and there was a fire lo aleinu that wiped out my house. Now I have nowhere to live. So I want to come to you and I say, I'm very sorry. I need my house back. I got to cancel the rental in the middle. We're going to see that in the Gemara. Okay, that's going to be part of that also relates here. But you understand that there's an issue there. Okay, somebody's going to be homeless. Somebody's going to be homeless, right? Either the owner of the rental facility, the property is going to be homeless, or the renter is going to be homeless. Okay, so that's again, this is where we always come into the conflict where we have a problem and we got to figure out, right, what trade-off we're ready to make.
In light of what you just said, I just want to add one more thing about the perspective on Kofin on Midat Stone, because I think I said something. I think maybe it was the end of the last year. I started talking about we didn't have enough time to talk about it, but now we can expand the point a little bit. Observe what's happening here. We have a situation where the socher, he did nothing wrong. He upheld the contract 100%. The maskir comes and makes a change. He made a change in the circumstances, in the economic context of the deal, and he comes to the socher and he wants to change the term of the contract. And we, the Beis Din, say to the socher, "Listen, even though he's changing the terms of the contract, as long as you're capable, as long as you're capable of fulfilling it, we're going to force you to fulfill it, even though the change was coming from the other direction.
You left out one point. As long as you're capable of changing the deal with no financial loss.
Well, there's no financial loss, but it's more of a hassle for him. He wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for that.
But you just pinpointed the issue we're going to have to be confronting all the way through in Kofin al Midas Dom. Is it simply a question of financial loss and we ignore the inconvenience? It seems like yes. Okay, and that's going to be how we apply Kofin al Midas Dom. When do we apply it? How do we apply it? Okay, lots of different scenarios. I think we mentioned the case that Rav Asher Weiss brings. It's not from the Asher Weiss, it's from an earlier posek, all right, about the minhag in the shul. The minhag in the shul on Simchas Torah is to sell the aliyahs, okay? And and therefore if a Kohen doesn't buy Kohen, they tell all the Kohanim to leave, all right, and go out and pass up on your leave. Go out for Kohen and then come back. And there's one Kohen, a stubborn Kohen, that says, I'm very sorry. I'm not leaving. I want my aliyah. I want an aliyah. I'm entitled to an aliyah, and I don't have to leave, and I don't have to bid. Okay? So the response was, well, there's a shul down the block, and they don't have this minhag. And if you go there, you can get your aliyah for Kohen. So what do we say? Do we say we force him to do that? Well, it's certainly inconvenient. So we'll get to that. Okay, I'm just showing you that's where Kofin Midas Dom is going to be. How do we apply it? All right, it's very clear. The simple understanding is Kofin al Midas Dom, where there's no financial loss. And that's what we're going to see in Bava Kama, which is going to be the next thing. Okay, let's just finish the Prisha. Umasha Kosav Rabbeinu b'Shem Harosh. Deinu yochel lachzor mischiruso. Hu b'piskov sham. Because of the ein divrei ri nirin deschirus liyoma mimkaru. You'll notice, Pinchas, that everybody falls back on the Rosh's winning argument that schirus is mimkar liyom. That it's not just you're changing the deal, you have no right to change the deal. All right, apparently you need in schirus, you need it to be mimkar liyom. Okay. V'shehagdimor de ka'omer v'yoiv taima de tochen v'zobin. But really, you didn't need that reason either, because schirus is bechira liyom, and therefore I have the right to maintain the deal, and you have no right to change the deal. Okay, let's see in the last few minutes. Let's just quickly look at the final psak of the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, if you guys can get a real Shulchan Aruch, Shin Yud Ches. It's in most Shulchan Aruchs, it's going to be the last volume if you're pulling out your book. It's going to be the last volume, Shin Yud Ches. It's a very short sif, a very short siman. Doesn't add a lot, but we just see that this the halacha l'maisis paskin. So, okay, everybody have it. I can start Shin Yud Ches. Hasocher richam mechavero sheyitchon lo esim sa'a b'chol chodesh b'scharo. V'he'eshir bal harei chayim. V'harei eno tzarech litchon sham. You'll notice that the Shulchan Aruch is using the language of the Rambam. Im yesh lo l'socher chitim shetzarech litchon la'atzmo o le'acherim, kofin oso litin d'mei tchinus esrim sa'a. Shezu midas domu. V'im ein lo, yachol lomar ein li damim, v'hareni tochen l'cha kamo shesacharti, v'ein ata tzarech, v'im ein ata tzarech, mechor le'acherim. So it sounds like he's allowed to say to this, you'll notice it doesn't pay attention to whether the masker has what to do with it or other customers. In fact, one could say that if ein lo, meaning if the socher doesn't have other customers, how can he tell the masker find other customers? But that's not the socher's problem. The socher says, look, I have no way of generating cash. The deal was, and it's your problem. Says the Sma. Again, Allah. V'he'eshir bal harei chayim. Hatur wrote v'he'eshir v'kan harei chayim. The Tur added what it says in the Gemara, the story, not like the Rambam. he added in v'kana rechayim. Be'inyan she'ein tzarich sheyitun lo. So zu miras dom, klomar zenenev zene choser. Why? The malo sheyitchon la maskir or sheyitchon la cheran imsoim. I don't know what that next abbreviation is. Do you have it more elaborated? Yes. Haboim, I think. What's the next?
I have
Uboim. Let him find other customers to come to him. If he has them, then yikach mehen damim v'yitnon lamaskir v'kover al miras dom. If he has other customers, again, it doesn't not clear how hard he has to work to generate those customers. Okay. Clearly, he doesn't have to spend money. I mean, if he has to now put full-page ads into Mishpacha magazine to try to attract new customers, that's certainly not zenen of zelo chaser. Okay. V'meina tatzorich muchar le'acherim loshon hagemara hanosei, right? Hanosei tachon v'zavin. Hagemara pirush hanosei tachon v'zavin. Tachon v'yosiv u'pirush Rashi v'arosh is v'ratzon alomar kiven ta'ata asher knei chitim utchon v'zavin es hakemach. Meaning, I'll give you what you need for yourself, and you use your new grindstone to generate commercial wheat. Okay, v'amachaber he'etik loshen harambam, v'hu tofas loshen hagamora bekitzer. So he's making it sound like there's no significance to the fact that he left out that he bought a new rechaim. He got rich, but the smart thinks that he just he told the same story without filling in all the details. But Pinchas would say, no, I think it makes a very big difference whether he just got rich or he bought a rechaim. Miutzarch sheteda shari ba'ala tosfos sfir ledim I efshar lo la maskir. What's the next word? It's Rabbi Cain. The efshar lo la maskir Cain. Dahaim limso liknos lilitchon v'limkol acherim. If the masker has no way to use his rechaim, he can't force the socher to pay money because the socher also has no customers. All right. So he can back out from the schirus. That's the re. Again, you see how that keeps repeating itself. We have to define the nature of schirus. Upluktazu kosav harosh, v'hatur behedya, the kosav harosh de hanesinas tam, de ka'amar begemora tachan v'zovin, hularabchan amilsa. It's not really necessary. All right? The ein yochel lachzor be'schiruso, even if he has no other customers. V'gama beis Yosef evio, umistomesh iksira hamechaber kan umoram, and the Rambam Zal, v'lo kosvu mizeh klum. They didn't bring in any of these conditions. V'adarabba, mehanisinas tam de kosvu, v'zelo shonam v'imena tam sarch mechor lacherim mashma de memokam de lo motzi lo meimer le'achi sarch liton de me'atchina v'zel lesa l'kuli alma v'gam lachzor likach miyado harechayim nira de halacha ke'arosh. Meaning, for sure, we're never going to make the socher pay money, and if you don't make him pay money, can the masker take it back? It says also not. Halacha ke'arosh v'atur de'eno yochel likach miyado ad sof hazman ki tamam barur v'tzarich iyun. Meaning, at the end of the day, he's noticing the fact that the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch didn't bring in the question that he bought other rechaim, and they don't mention the fact that whether he has what to do with it or he doesn't have what to do with it. And therefore, he wants to say, at the end of the day, it's not 100% clear who the halacha should be like. Okay. I don't think there's any shach on this. Right. Okay. Right. Yes. Okay. So we'll leave it here. We're going to start next time. Bava Kama Hadar b'chatzer chavero shelo b'rshus. We saw this Gemara a couple of years ago. We're going to only do parts of it that are nogeh directly to Kofin al Minas Dom. Okay, and we're going to see the have a big Gemara because we need to see the Gemara. We need to see the Rif, Nemuke Yosef, and Rosh all on that Gemara. We're going to skip parts of it and only focus on the things that are relevant. Okay, and again, we have, if you remember, we have the idea that hadar b'chatzar chaveru. It depends whether the guy living there normally rents. Is the house up for rent? If the house is not up for rent, but the guy normally rents, if the guy doesn't rent, but the house is up for rent, if you remember all those combinations, they're going to all make a very big difference, and there will be a bit of an interesting machlokas rishonim about it, but then we're going to have to see the Rosh, the Numukei Yosef, Rif Numukei Yosef and Rosh. So have a Gemara Bava Kama for next time. Seder? Okay, everybody. Have a great Shabbos. Okay. Kol Tuv.
Thank you.